On the evening of October 7, 1999, 16-year-old Emily Hartwell left her family home in a small town in northern Wisconsin to walk 3 blocks to her best friend's house. She was wearing a light blue sweater, dark jeans, and carrying a small backpack with overnight clothes. She never arrived at her friend's house. She was never seen alive again. The case became one of the longest-standing missing persons investigations in the state of Wisconsin. 22 years passed. Detectives retired. Family members moved away. The town gradually stopped speaking her name. And then in March of 2021, a roll of undeveloped photographic film was discovered in the estate of a deceased local photographer named Walter Crenshaw. The film, when developed, would force the entire case to be reopened. Walter Crenshaw had been the town photographer for 47 years. He had photographed 3 generations of high school graduations, every wedding in the parish church, every county fair, every Memorial Day parade. He died of natural causes in February of 2021 at age 81. His niece, the only living relative, hired an estate liquidator to inventory his small home. Among hundreds of cameras, lenses, and photo albums, the liquidator found a metal film canister labeled in pencil with the date October 7, 1999, and a single word: Field. The canister was sealed with photographic tape. It had clearly not been opened in 22 years. The liquidator, who had read about the Hartwell case in local papers years before, did not open the canister himself. He drove it directly to the county sheriff's office that same afternoon. According to the case file, the film canister was processed by the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory under strict chain of custody protocols. 8 exposures were on the roll. 5 of them showed standard landscape photography of a wooded area approximately 12 miles outside the town. 2 of them showed an unfamiliar vehicle, a green 1993 Ford pickup truck, parked alongside a dirt service road. The license plate was partially visible. The final photograph, frame number 8, showed Emily Hartwell. She was standing approximately 20 feet from the camera. She was alive at the moment the photograph was taken. The timestamp metadata, recoverable from the film's chemical signature, placed the exposure at 6:47 in the evening on October 7, 1999. 23 minutes after she left her family home. Detectives immediately began trying to identify the green Ford pickup. The partial plate showed 3 confirmable digits. Wisconsin DMV records from 1999 listed 41 matching trucks within a 50-mile radius. The detectives narrowed the list by cross-referencing repair records, insurance claims, and employment information. By the end of 2 weeks of work, they had eliminated 39 of the 41 possibilities. 2 trucks remained. One belonged to a farmer named Russell Maybeck, who had died of cancer in 2011. The other belonged to a seasonal hunting guide named Curtis Vance, who at the time of Emily's disappearance had been 43 years old, and who in 2021 was still alive, still residing in the same county, 15 miles outside the town. Curtis Vance was interviewed for the first time in his life in connection with the Hartwell case in May of 2021. According to court documents, he claimed he could not remember where he had been on October 7, 1999. He denied having ever met or seen Emily Hartwell. He denied having been on the service road shown in the photographs. He volunteered to take a polygraph test which he subsequently failed on multiple control questions. Detectives executed a search warrant on his property 6 days later. In an old tool shed at the back of his hunting lodge, behind a wall of stacked firewood that appeared not to have been moved in decades, they recovered a small backpack. Inside it were overnight clothes consistent with what Emily's mother had described. Folded inside the front pocket of the backpack was Emily's high school identification card. Curtis Vance was arrested and charged with first-degree intentional homicide and kidnapping. According to investigators, he initially denied involvement but eventually provided a partial confession during a 5-hour interview. He directed authorities to a remote location in the same wooded area where the photographs had been taken. Emily Hartwell's remains were recovered 84 feet from a small creek, buried under approximately 3 feet of earth and gravel. Forensic dental records confirmed her identification within 48 hours. The family, after 22 years of uncertainty, was finally able to hold a funeral. Walter Crenshaw, the deceased photographer, had likely never known what was on his roll of film. Investigators theorized that he had been wildlife photographing in the area on the evening of October 7, unintentionally captured the truck and Emily, and somehow never developed that specific role. The film had sat in his collection for 2 decades. Curtis Vance is currently serving life imprisonment without possibility of parole at a Wisconsin correctional facility. He has, according to prison records, never given a complete statement about the events of October 7, 1999. The Hartwell family established a memorial scholarship in Emily's name at her former high school, which has now funded 11 students through college. Walter Crenshaw's photography archive was donated by his niece to the local historical society. Among the hundreds of photographs of weddings and parades and graduations is one envelope, properly labeled and preserved, containing the 8 photographs from that roll of film. The envelope is marked simply, "Evidence." A case that detectives had given up on, that families had grieved without closure, that towns had stopped discussing, was ultimately resolved not by new technology or breakthrough investigation, but by a forgotten roll of film sitting in a metal canister in an old photographer's home for 22 years. Sometimes justice arrives slowly. Sometimes it arrives when no one is looking anymore.